Hey there friends and viewers, my name's Hengist, I'm with TGN, and today I would like to talk about the hardware in next-gen consoles, particularly the PlayStation 4, and what we can expect in the gaming industry in the next year as a result. I'm not going to be nitpicking at any of the minute details such as the makes or models of the hardware, rather a more general outlook on the course modern gaming consoles are taking, how that relates to gaming PCs, and whether or not they'll last another generation. This is the first video in a speculation series I hope to produce leading up to the PS4's release, which is said to be this holiday season. I don't have to tell you that this is all my opinion and you're welcome to disagree, but just remember that this is my video and I'm telling it how I see it. I'm a passionate gamer and I do not discriminate towards any platforms, which brings me to my first point. PC gamers. You all need to chill the f*** out. I know TGN's audience is predominantly PC, which I'm partly responsible for, so naturally I expect these opinions to undergo a fair amount of scrutiny because for some reason PC gamers are under the impression that consoles are machines designed for technological peasants and to play one is a travesty against the cyberarts. I suppose this is spawned by some misguided sense of elitism and thinking that your PC is the most badass thing on the planet, and it really gets under my skin after a while. I'm not here to rant, I just know that there will be some of those PC fanatics that bring their cult-like behavior into this discussion without giving the counter-argument any fair consideration, so please, don't try me. So, with that out of the way, what do we know about the PS4's computer hardware? It's been stated multiple times by Sony officials that the PlayStation 4 is going to utilize an x86 processor, which is where the notion that it mirrors a PC architecture comes from. In layman's terms, x86 is basically the language that the processor speaks and how it computes and or utilizes the other hardware a part of that system. If you compare the computer to a body, the processor or the CPU is the central nervous system or the brain of the machine. What we call PCs, or personal computers in this case, generally Intel and AMD processors that are used to run the Windows operating systems, they use this same architecture and have for decades. This is a big deal given that previously the PlayStation 3 with the cell processor, although very powerful, didn't really speak this language, and thus it had to be translated every time a piece of software written for a different platform could run on the PS3. There's that complication and the fact that the game developers of today have to relearn a console's architecture every time a new generation is released. This is why you see such a giant improvement in hardware utilization, or more simply put, an improvement in graphics from the launch titles of a console versus the titles released closer to the end of its lifespan. Compare Resistance Fall of Man to a modern PC title like God of War Ascension. This sort of performance would not have been possible in 2006 due to the game developers' understanding of the system's architecture and thus its capabilities. But with the PlayStation 4, we're looking at a whole new ballgame. Notice that Sony has stated the PS4 will support x86, hence it will be fully capable of running PC games, but that doesn't limit the statement to any notion of restricting its previous capabilities to what would be otherwise a more traditional console coding. In short, theoretically, game developers will not have to do any new learning to start coding for the PS4 because there will be no difference in the code from a regular PC, which means a console port to PC will not really be a port, it's just going to be cross-platform the way Xbox 360 and PS3 share software. And that of course speaks to the new generation of console limitations and how they're going to affect PC gaming. Let's make one thing clear. The gaming industry is a business, and in business, a company cannot justify spending resources on a product that will not maximize profits, so they won't do it. Yes, it's true, the gaming PCs of today are far more powerful than any console. Hell, the PC I'm making this video on can game harder than the PS4, and it's not even out yet. But that doesn't make an ounce of difference if developers will not exceed the hardware limitations of a console if it's going to harm their profits. So PC gamers with any love of gaming will be relieved in any console advancements because they hold the largest market share and thus determine the technical prowess of our games. This makes me recall the original Crysis and how it was literally several years ahead of its time. Why? Because it was PC exclusive, and only the best machines of its day could run it properly. And guess what? Crytek didn't receive the recognition it deserved for the game because only a small percentage of gamers who own PCs of that caliber and had the drive to keep their PCs up to date to constantly play the latest, most advanced pieces of hardware utilize the game. The gaming industry is moving towards cross-platform assimilation. Not limited to consoles anymore, we're now going to witness simultaneous PC and console releases running very similar specs and very similar results because that socialist approach is the best business model for game companies. So how badly will the new generation of consoles bottleneck the PC's performance? Everyone's worked up about how weak the PS4 CPU is with its 8 cores clocked at 1.6 GHz and saying how it's total weak sauce and thus uber GG failboat. It's true. From what we know about the PS4's processor, it's about as powerful as a third generation Intel Core i3. Its GPU is probably in the field of an HD Radeon 7850, which is modern, but even the latest generation of graphics cards, it's still considered mid-range. So how can it compete? People will go on for hours about how much greater their PC is and hibbity-bibbity-squibbity, but I'm going to lay down the simple truth. You can't compare the hardware of a PC to a console. They're just not interchangeable. Firstly, the console doesn't run a f***ing operating system, okay? There's no useless background tasks, Windows Aero, memory leaks, malware from browsing your favorite websites. It's just a gaming machine. That's the PlayStation's #1 function. That means all of its hardware is designed to game, and everything else comes second. That means that when the PlayStation goes into game mode, that's what it's doing. There's no pussyfooting around, you're in the game. And because of the way it's designed, because it doesn't run a conventional operating system the way a PC does, the CPU and the GPU are able to have digital intercourse in a way that makes your PC jelly. They basically do a fusion dance and work in perfect unison, effectively improving the overall performance of the machine exponentially. And we almost forgot, the PS4 is confirmed to have 8 GB of independent GDDR5 memory at its disposal. Let me say that again, 8 GB of graphics double data rate version 5. You see, this just reinforces my point. PCs use system memory called SDRAM, which is all-purpose and a lot slower. GDDR is for graphics exclusively, and that's what's built into your graphics cards. For a graphics card to have 8 GB of graphics RAM is unheard of. There's that, and due to the design of the PS4, the CPU can access this RAM as its all-purpose system RAM. So let's just recap that. You have 2 powerful processing units whose combined graphics computing power probably beats out 95% of gaming PCs at this date. And both of those processing units can access 8 GB of the fastest graphics memory independently of one another. The result is a graphics computing powerhouse that makes the PS3's design look like a joke, that can seamlessly port PC games into its infrastructure. It has a built-in Blu-ray drive and probably has the ability to run 4K resolutions like a champion. Not that your TV could even display that resolution to begin with. Sony designed this console with a 10-year lifespan in mind at least. It is a monster, and any PC gamer that doubts that is a deluded monkey. I'm sorry to say, but I'm about as hardcore as a PC gamer gets. And I have mad respect for PlayStation and their ability to predict the future of entertainment standards. The PlayStation 3 has grown to fill the role of a multimedia center so well, I'm extremely impressed with it to this day. With services like Netflix and Amazon Instant Video built into the console, I find myself watching video on PlayStation more than any other device, and its quality is really unparalleled. But let's move on to the last and perhaps most interesting piece of hardware the PlayStation 4 has to offer in this video. The hard disk. There's a very strong likelihood that the PS4 will ship with a built-in solid-state drive. If this is true, it will improve the machine's performance so much, it'll start to make video games more cinematic than Hollywood films. Think about it. Game developers cannot afford to code for SSDs because they're a relatively new technology and they're very expensive, but utilizing them as a standard would eliminate all moving parts even when loading from a disk, which would improve far more than any GPU upgrade would. Load times? Forget about it. Frame rate chugs, a thing of the past. Can you imagine a PC game having an SSD a part of the system requirements? I doubt it. But PS4 exclusives wouldn't even need to make mention of it. I'd post the argument that if the PS4 ships with an SSD built in, then PS4 exclusives will actually be more impressive than PC ports, all because the devs can go into their project with a guarantee of the user owning an SSD, where certain scenarios would cause a regular hard drive to kaput. The SSD opens a world of performance possibilities. So, in closing, based on the little information we have about the PS4's hardware, we can easily deduce that it will drastically raise the standard of mainstream titles in the gaming industry. The next gen will be cross-compatible with the PC, and there will be no more sloppy porting due to the x86 design of the PS4. And it will take a long time for gaming PCs to once again surpass the console standard, and at no small cost, which will, perhaps for the first time in history, level out the playing field for console and PC gamers alike from a technical point of view. What can we expect from the PS4 as a multimedia device? Great things. I can't wait to tell you more about it as soon as I learn more, so hit that subscribe button and let's get jiggy with it. Nah. My name's Hengus, thanks for watching, and I'll catch you in the next one. See ya.